Hi, welcome back to News and Policy Notes with Neil. I'm Neil Chatterjee, Chief Government Affairs Officer at Palmetto. And while this week was a quote-unquote recess week in the U.S. Congress, that doesn't mean there wasn't a lot of activity and a lot of work. As an aside, when I was a congressional aide, it always frustrated me to some degree that people thought recess meant the members and staff went on vacation. That's not the case at all. The members, the senators, they go back to their states and their districts and they meet with their constituents on the ground. And the policy staff does the work to prepare for when the members come back to Congress post recess. And in this particular recess period, there's a lot of intense work going on in both the House and the Senate to try to meet Speaker Mike Johnson's objective of passing the Trump domestic agenda via budget reconciliation by Memorial Day. Now, I think everyone agrees that is a very ambitious timeline. However, you cannot underestimate Speaker Johnson's ability to get his members to unify. He has thus far pulled off 3 successive votes where most of Washington was skeptical he could do it, he could get it done. And so while this will certainly be challenging, I think we've got to give the speaker his credit, and he understands that every day past Memorial Day, it'll get harder and harder to pass this legislation and really wants to push hard to get it done. And the staffs have been grinding on it this past week. For those of us who care about the clean energy tax incentives, we're going to be very closely watching activity at the House Ways and Means Committee. According to staff, the Ways and Means Committee will start their process a little bit later in May. Some of the other committees will begin their process earlier. What I will be watching very closely is what is Chairman Jason Smith's opening sort of approach to the clean energy tax credits. I think, at first his intention was to eliminate the IRA completely and then have members who want certain provisions to be included to have them added back in. Over the course of the last 6 weeks, we've seen a number of folks in both the House and the Senate come out in favor of supporting the incentives or perhaps agreeing to some modest modifications that would not disrupt investment or curb job growth in their states and congressional districts. So does Chairman Smith open with the IRA zeroed out and push for it to be components of it to be added back in? Or does he start with a negotiated position on the IRA in the Ways and Means Committee? As a reminder to folks who are watching this, the legislative process is a fluid one, and there will be several data points. The initial chairman's mark released by Chairman Smith, the product that is voted out of the Ways and Means Committee, and then whatever comes out of the House floor process. That is before we even get to the Senate and its role. The Senate Finance Committee, the Ways and Means counterpart, has very different instructions in Ways and Means. So there will be a lot of twists and turns. Pay attention to every data point, but don't overreact to any one data point. This is going to be a very, very fluid situation, and there will be a lot more to report in the coming weeks. The other big energy story this week came on the permitting front out of the administration, where the Interior Department halted an offshore wind project off the coast of New York. And this just gets me back to something that I've spoken about frequently, which is the need to get permitting reform done in this country. Look, there are some elements of politics to this, no question. The Trump administration, the president, has been very clear about his disdain for offshore wind, but both parties have caused issues in this regard. Offshore wind is tough. When I was chairman of FERC, I convened a technical conference to look at offshore wind integration because there were a lot of really complicated issues to getting wind deployed. Similarly, when I was at FERC, I approved 2 liquefied natural gas facilities that were remanded to the commission by the DC Circuit. After I was no longer chair, FERC sat on those applications for almost 2 years before ordering more process. Politics plays a role, but so does the permitting process in this country. We need bipartisan permitting legislation out of Congress to make it easier to build things, because as a reminder, in order to meet the coming surge in demand driven by AI and other factors, we are going to need the maximum number of electrons. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Thanks again for tuning in to a Policy and Energy Notes with Neil.